The guiding questions are the following. Do you know how to build and use a rule for connecting an input-output pair? So that's the one thing. Do you know how to build the rule for connecting an input-output pair? And do you know how to plot a visual representation of an input-output pair on something called the Cartesian plane? Now, some of you may have heard of this thing called the Cartesian plane. It's basically just two number lines that are at 90 degrees to each other. And the one number line we call the x-axis. And the other number line we call the y-axis. And so its fancy, kind of name is the Cartesian plane or the xy plane. And so we want to know today, can we represent our input-output pairs on this thing called the Cartesian plane? So that's kind of where we're going to. But in the last lesson, we finished with this question, and there was still some uncertainty about it. So I want to kind of start it again and just make sure we can do it. And so just to kind of set the scene, we have these inputs over here, and then we have these outputs. And the first thing to do is I want to work out what goes with the 4. And then after I've done that, I want to work out, okay, well, what is the y like formula like that goes with the x? And then once we've done that completely, the last thing we're going to do is we are going to have a look and try and get this a and b up here. Okay, but I want to first ask you to work out the missing values. So for A, and then the answer for B, and then go from there. Ah, Rebetz, where I see you've got 24 pretty much. Well done. I'll come back to that in the next lesson.
Well done.
Okay, so over to you guys, and I'll wait for the chat or for someone to raise their hand to explain how you get the pink and the blue one, and we'll go from there. Okay, Annalena, I'm going to unmute you, and if you could maybe explain to me how you got your answer for the pink one, if we're able to unmute you. I'm trying to unmute you, but it doesn't seem to want to help. Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
I'm still figuring out.
Oh, okay. Then we'll put you on mute, so then someone else can jump online when they have a moment. Rita says, you're close, Rita. You're almost there. You forgot one important detail. Mali, do you want to come online and tell us how you got your answer for the pink one? Tando, same thing. You want to explain? Machle? Okay, I see lots of people are getting to -14. And I think you got -14 because you just took away 4 each time. But the more difficult one is, can I get the output value that goes with the x? That's a little bit trickier. And so I'm going to give you a little bit more time, and then I'm going to ask someone to maybe help me a little bit. So, oh, I see a hand has gone up. Kachaliso. Let's see if I can unmute you.
Hi, sir. So
Hello.
I think the rule is I think it's between y, -4y -2, or it's 4y -2. I'm not sure which one it is.
Are you not sure if it's, so you said -2 or or tell me your answer again. What do you think it is?
So I either think y equals -4x -2 or 4x -2. I'm not sure which one it is.
Okay, so that's your two options. No, that's fine. That's fantastic. Now I'll ask someone else if what they think. But I think you're pretty close. The one way to do it is to test it, guys, to ask yourself, well, if I put a 1 into either of these, would I get out a -2? So if I went in with a 1, do I get out a -2? If I went in with a 2, do I get out a -6? The other thing I want to point out, guys, is the formula is actually not going to have a y in it in the block. It's only going to have x's because the whole thing is the y. So often in the block, all you will do is you'll either see this, or sorry, let me just take that out, or you'll see this, because that's kind of the, but we know the whole thing in the block is equal to y. So who agrees? I'm interested to see who's on this side, who's on this side. Who thinks it's a -4? Who thinks it's a +4 that goes in front? Test your answers, guys. Test your answers. If I think about what we were doing in the previous lessons, we always had to work out the number in front of the x, and then we had to work out the other number that came after it, and we would test our answers. And I'm pretty confident that this is going down in 4s. And because it's going down in 4s, it's going to be a -4x here. However, that is not going to give us the right answer, because if I test this out, if I take that 1 and I put it into, so I say my input is 1, I get out -4. And the problem is that's not what I wanted. What I wanted was -2. Okay, so that is my issue. And I can test it again. I can also test it with, if I put a 2 in, I get out a -8. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted a -6. So I want to ask you, how do we get from -4 to -2? Who would like to help me with this one? Letabo, I'm going to try and unmute you if you can maybe help me with this last bit.
So I think that you should minus by 2 the
Okay.
-4. You minus it by 2 to make negative 14, to make -10, -6, and -2.
Okay, let's test it out. So let's go, stay on the line. If I put a 1 in, now the very first input is a 1, right? We're happy that it's a 1. If you look at the table at the very beginning, if I put a 1 in and I then take away 2, according to my maths, I end up at -6. Now, the problem with that is I was hoping that my output would match what was here. So maybe somebody, so I think you're close, but you're not quite there. Emi Klati, I'm going to unmute you if we can. Or have you been unmuted already? Or otherwise, Rebetswe, maybe you can help us.
Hi, sir.
Hello. What do you think we need to do?
Sir, I think we should add 2.
Okay, so you think we should add 2. How did you get to add 2? How did you work that out for yourself?
Sir, because because I checked first to see the numbers. I first saw it's going up by 2. I mean
Yes.
by 4, and then you should add 2 to get to negative the first term.
Yeah. So you saw you were at -4 and you needed to get to -2. And so what you did was you went, I need to go up by 2. And so
Yes,
that's
sir.
where the +2 comes from. Perfect. Now what that's going to mean is the formula here is going to be -4x plus 2. Okay. So what I want to do, guys, is I just want to make sure everyone can do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave A and B for now. I'm actually going to do another question like this, just to make sure we understand. Before we even worry about A and B, we need to make sure that we know how to, oh, sorry. So I want everybody to try and do the same exercise again. And I want you to work out for me what is, forget about the value of A and B. I'm not interested in the value of A and B at all. That is for another time. What I want to know is, what is that answer going to be? And then what is this one going to be, which is basically
Sorry, Teacher Peter, I've muted everybody. Please unmute.
So what I want to know, guys, we're ignoring this bit here. So I'm not worried about that bit at the end. All I want to know is the 2 question marks. What goes with 4? And then what is going to be the output when the input is an X? And basically, when you do that, you'll give me the rule for the relationship.
Let's go, guys. We can do this.
We can do this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, Annalena, do you want to help us?
Sir, I was trying to say I can understand before you go forward.
Okay, so you still feel like you need a bit more guidance. Can I ask you
Yes.
something? What's happening with the 5? If you look at the 5 going to 3 and the 3 going to 1, what do you notice about those? Do you notice anything about that pattern? Okay, let's see. Maybe we'll ask Tsadiso. Maybe you can help us. Okay, I see Ayanda and Oyama also put stuff in there. So guys, what I think most of you will see is that this is going to be -1 because it's going down by 2 each time. Okay, so that's
Yes,
the first one. Perfect. Now the second bit is, in order to get the Y value or the output, we always put a number in front of the X, and then we have something else that comes afterwards. What do you think? Maybe you can put this in the chat. What do you think is the number in front of the X this time? Wasim, what do you think it's going to be? I think you unmuted, Wasim, or at least I tried to. Okay, I see Onati has answered. So Onati and Lukiwe have answered that they think it is a -2 that goes in front. Now, Wasim, if we are able to unmute you, maybe you can help me with the last bit. Okay, I don't think it's working at the moment. So at the moment, if I test it, guys, we always test it. Let's see what happens if I start with the first input and I use what I've got. At the moment, I'm going to end up at -2. And this is a problem because I really, really wanted to get to 5. I really, really wanted to get to 5. Now, what do you think we can do in this spot over here that will help me get from -2 up to 5, which is the output over there? Okay, so so sorry. I've unmuted you. There we go.
sir.
What do you need to add? Yeah.
So we must add, sir.
We must add, yes. Okay, so first of all, I want to applaud you. We need to go from -2 to 5. We need to get bigger. And so if we think of the number line,
Yes, sir.
we think of being down here, we need to get all the way up to 5. Can you tell me how much I need to go from -2 all the way up to 5?
You must put +7 there.
Yes. Can everybody see that? Because this is really important. When we tested our formula, and our formula wasn't completely working yet. So we tested it and we got to -2. But we realized we wanted to be at 5, and we had to figure out the journey to go from -2 to 5. And once we figured that out, we then know that it's +7. Now we can test it again to see that we're on the right ballpark, we're on the right, we've done this properly. So let's see. Let's use the number 2. If we've done this right, we end up with a 3. So I take the formula that I have, I leave a space for the input, and I add +7. Okay, -2 times by 2, and we get y is -4 + 7. Guys, happiness. We end up at 3, which is what we expected. Okay, so if we look at the rule in here is going to just be minus 2x plus 7. That's if it was just the output by itself, but the full rule is going to be y equals minus 2x plus 7. Okay, now Princess, yes, it is going to be about some of how this works, yes. Let's do one more just like this. But if there's a question, I also will take that. Does anybody want to ask a question before we do another one like this? On Lena.
Yeah, I can understand now.
Can you understand? Okay, that's good news.
Yeah.
Let's do one more just to make sure we're 100% sure we can do this.
Yes.
Okay. So, again, in this last one, we are not worrying about this part over here at all. All I'm interested in knowing is, do you know what the output is that goes with the input of 4? And then can you figure out what goes here, which is basically the general, the formula for the whole input-output rule. And I'm going to give you some time. So we're not worrying about A and B. We're just looking for the missing values and then the rule expressed as a formula. Okay, I'm going to give you a bit more time there, Marco. Okay, how do we get y equals to 3? Okay, I'm not going to go into that question right now, Emechlati, but the way you would do it is you would go backwards if you were trying to get to the inputs. You can look at the end of the last video. We discussed a little bit about how to go backwards, but for now, I want us to concentrate on just what we're doing. And I see some people are saying in the chat that we go up by 4. They've spotted that and they think that might be helpful. The output seems to go up by 4. And let's go to some questions. Mukona, do you want to ask your question? I'm asking you to unmute. I'm trying to unmute you, but I don't know if it's... There we go. Mukona, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you because you're moving too fast.
Okay. So you want us to slow down a little bit there?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see what we can do to help with that. Thanks, Makona. So, anybody else have a question? Let's have a look. So I think what we need to do here is just to look at how the outputs are increasing in 4s. And if it's going up in 4s, the next one is going to have to be 13. Okay, so because that would go up by 4 more. But now the next thing is think about the last example and think about what process did we follow in order to work out the y equals, or the rule, the output. And we always seem to do this thing where we wrote down the input and then we wrote a number in front of that. And then after that, we would try and balance, we would try and make sure that the rule fits. And so I want to see what do you think the number is in front of the x? Okay, Onati, let's go to you. Can you hear me,
Okay.
Onati?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, I think the number in front of x is 4.
Perfect. And how did you get that number?
I decided to plus by 4 and then
So you were
see what
looking at
takes.
this.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I agree with you. That's a good thing to do.
Well done, Onati.
Okay, now for the last bit, I want to go back to Makona and see maybe I see your hand is up again. Do you want to help us with the next bit? Can you hear me, Makona? Yes, can you hear me? Okay, otherwise, if you are able, what do you think is the last bit that we need to add on to make this rule correct? At the moment, if I have an input of x is 1, it looks to me like the output ends up being 4. And the problem is I want the output to be 1. I'm going to go to Nomsa. Nomsa, can you help us?
Yes.
Yeah, what do you need to do?
I think y is equal to 4x minus 3.
Yes, I think you are absolutely correct.
Woo,
The only way, though, we know for sure is let's do a test run. So let us check if the rule that we've got, so basically what you're saying is that in this block here, there should be a 4x minus 3. So y,
Yes.
the output y is equal to 4x minus 3. Now let's check it. I'm going to choose 4. And if I've done this correctly, in fact, let's not even choose 4. Let's choose 3. If I've done this correctly, or if together we've done it correctly, we should end up with 9. So we use our rule. We leave a space for the input, which was 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. So guys, we are winning at life. Well done. Okay, now before we move on to the second part of the lesson, I want to point something out to you about these inputs and outputs. Sometimes in mathematics, we write the input, these are called input-output pairs, and sometimes we write input-output pairs in a different way. And I'm wondering if anybody knows about this in the class. Have you seen a different way of writing input and output pairs? So for example, in this one that we're doing, the first input-output pair is 1, 1. The second input-output pair is 2, 5. And I'm just wondering, have you guys heard of a different way of writing input-output pairs? Okay, let me go to Annalena.
Sir,
Yes.
when are you go to the exponents?
Okay, we're not going to be doing exponents today. We did a whole course on exponents if you go to the Watobe website. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay,
Teacher
sir.
Peter.
Sir,
Yeah. Go ahead, Yolanda.
Okay. So many students are saying on the chats that you are breaking. So I just wanted to say that they might have to check the Wi-Fi connection because on my side, you're not breaking.
Yeah, so there might be a sort of a problem with the Wi-Fi generally in some area, maybe. But
Yeah.
okay, because if you can hear me clearly, then it means that it is getting.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to know, so I think everyone is happy that y equals 4x minus 3 is the rule. And so I'm going to take all the other working away for a moment. But what I was focusing on, guys, was something called, so what we worked out here, we worked out this was 13. The other thing we're going to learn tonight is how to display input-output pairs. And so I wanted to know, has anybody heard of something called a point or a XY pair? Okay, so what I want to point out to you is sometimes input-output pairs are written like this. So the very first input-output pair here is 1, 1. That would be this one over here. The second input-output pair, which is this one, if we were writing it in coordinate pair notation, we would write it as 2, 5. And in mathematics, when you see this notation, you always know that the first one is the x, which is the input, and the second value is the y, which is the output. The third input-output pair in this relationship would be 3, 9, because the input is 3, it's x, and the output would be y. Has anybody here heard about that or seen anything like that in your maths class before? Give me a thumbs up if you've seen something like this in your maths class. Give a thumbs down if you've never heard of writing input-output pairs as Cartesian pairs. Ah, Fareed said he's heard of it, or she's heard of it. I think it's a boy's name. Yes. Okay. Anybody else heard of these input-output pairs? Okay, a lot of you haven't seen it. Okay. So all I want to do before we go on to the next part of the lesson is I want you to recognize the idea of an input-output pair. So you get an input-output pair by having a rule, putting something into it, and then getting something out. And whenever we write it in this format, the input is written first, the output is written second. Okay, so most of us had never heard of the Cartesian plane. Okay, don't worry, guys. We're going to explain how this works now. Let us take these points, 1, 1, 2, 5, 3, 9, and I'm going to copy these onto my next thing. And then we're going to have a brain break in a second. Control C. And then I'm going to, okay. So guys, what I want to do now is, you know from the previous example that the first number is the X or the input, and the second number is the Y or the output. What if I told you in mathematics, we have a way of displaying input-output pairs, and this is how we do it. So we have one number line over here, and this number line is for, it says it even has an X here. This is for the inputs. Can you see the X there? And then we have another number line, which goes like this, which is perpendicular. It's going up like that. And this is for the outputs. And what I'm going to show you guys is how we can plot an input-output pair on this rather interesting looking Cartesian plane. So what you do is you go to 1, you find your first bit is X is 1. So where is X1? X is 1 would be over here. So anywhere on this line, X would be 1. So let me even make a little dot there. Anywhere along this line, X would be 1. Now let's go to the second pair. In the second one, Y is equal to 1. So now remember, on which of the two axes is Y going to be? Well, Y is 1 over here. And so anything on that line is going to have a value of Y equal 1. Now what we're looking for, guys, is where does X equal 1 meet up with Y equal 1? And it's going to be at this point over here, that red point over there. So I'm even going to remove some of the writing just so that it's clearer for you to see. If we want to represent the input-output pair of 1, 1, it would be over there. Now, I know this is new to a lot of you, so a lot of you will still be feeling very confused, but I just want you to think about this for a moment. Where do you think the input-output pair would land if the input-output pair was 2, 5? So just take a moment. I don't want you to rush. We're going to have a break in a moment. But if you had to guess, where do you think the input-output pair 2, 5 would land on this grid that I'm showing you? And this fancy grid is called the Cartesian plane. All right. And I want you to think for a moment. Where do you think it would end up? Okay. So some of you, maybe you're going to ask questions, or maybe you just want to tell me the answer. Ayanda, I'm going to unmute you. Could you help me with this?
Hi, sir.
Hello. Yes.
So, sir, the input of 2 to 5 is the input we're gonna be by 2.
So you move across. So you start at 0, and you move across the x-axis for 2. And then what do I need to do after that?
You move up until you go to the 5.
So you think that your input output pair, I like how you did it. So guys, let's just have a look at that. What we did is we started from 0, 0, and we went along the x-axis for 2, and then we went up by 5. And this gets me to the point over here, the point 25. That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely perfect. We're doing so.
Sorry, Teacher Peter, I muted all again because I couldn't find whoever was making noise. Sorry, unmute.
Let's just try. I'm going to give you a point myself. I'm going to make up another point. This point is going to be the point 3. This input-output pair is going to be the input-output pair 3, 4. Do you think you can find where the input-output pair 3, 4 is located on this Cartesian plane? And I want you to start, this point over here is called 0, 0, because the blue one is where both number lines meet. And I want you to see, can you get from there to this point 3, 4? And if you're able to, maybe you can raise your hand and help me. Nomsa, I'm going to unmute you.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think that you start from 0, 0,
Yeah.
and you drag it all the way to 3,
Okay, so you go across by 3, yeah.
and then you drag it all the way to 4, and that is where
But you go upwards. Are you going upwards
Yes.
now, or are you going downwards?
we're going up.
Okay, fantastic. Would you end up here? Would that be the
Yes.
point 3, 4 for you? Okay, fantastic. So guys, we need more practice at this, but just what this is showing you, you know, in the last part of the lesson they were doing input-output pairs. This is a way, remember the input was X, the output was Y. This dot is showing me a visual representation of this input-output pair. And that's quite an important thing in mathematics, making sure you understand how a coordinate pair can be represented as a point on the Cartesian plane, and also knowing that coordinate pairs come from rules normally. Let me do one more. Could you find the point or the coordinate pair on the Cartesian plane 5, 6? I want you to think to yourself, where do you think 5, 6 is on this Cartesian plane? And I'm going to then also ask Kevin. Kevin, are you still wanting to answer? Are you happy to answer for the point 5, 6? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good, thank you, sir. I still do not understand
How this works? Okay.
Yes.
Let me try and take you through this one, 5, 6, and then we can have a brief break. The point 5, 6, in one way is saying on the x-axis or the input is 5. And so its point on the y-axis, if I start at 0 and I go on a journey, so this point, the special point in the middle is called the origin, but I'm going to start my journey and I'm going to go across by 5. Now that is taking care of that part of the journey. But now I still need to go the second part of the journey, which is this 6 over here. And the 6 is the output. And to get to that, I need to go on the y-axis or the vertical line. So I go up by 6. And so this point, the input-output pair 5, 6, is going to be this point all the way up here.
So what's going to happen if we go down? If we go down.
Let me give you another input-output pair. If I gave you this input-output pair, Kevin, and everyone else who's watching, do you think you know where that would end up? Can you visualize where that would be on the Cartesian plane? So again, I encourage you to start with at 0, 0, which is the point right where the two number lines meet, do you know where that point will end up?
Yes.
Which I think is what Kevin is asking. Do you want to have a go,
It's
Kevin?
gonna end up at the 2.
Okay, so you go, because the x
Yes,
is
so we're
2,
gonna
you
go
across
wide.
by 2. Now, what does -5 mean you have to
Yes.
do? Yeah?
We're going down until -5.
Yes. So you get there.
Yes.
And so this point, and so sometimes what you see, Kevin, is we might even call this point the point E, and you sometimes see the label E for that point. But the point E is made up of two things, the input, X, and the output, Y. Okay. Now, you guys are doing so well. I want to just give you one more little bit of information about, in fact, you know what? Let's take a quick break because I think we've done so much and you guys are on fire. We need to have a quick little break. So I want everyone to stand up and do their favorite stretch. And while you are doing your favorite stretch, I want you to let your brain just zone out for a second. And I want you to see if you know what a cat plus a raccoon plus a bird is. What is a cat? Okay, while you're working on that, let me stand up and stretch too.
Oh,
Very
so
quickly.
good.
And then I'll come to these answers.
Onalena, you need to stretch. I see you there. Oh, Tidiso, well done.
We'll do the next stretch. Ooh.
Unati, well done. I see them.
Unati is, I like it. Unati is going to learn lots now because her brain has gone, thank you very much for taking care of me.
Yes,
And so your
I
brain
think
is
so
going to respond. Okay, so who can tell me about the cats? And you guys, you know what? With these brain breaks, we're actually secretly doing algebra. I'm actually secretly sending algebra to your brain, but I'll tell you about that in the next module that we do. So who is able to help me with the solving this problem? If you can, maybe put it in the chat. And oh my goodness, guys, answers are flying in. So it seems like a cat is 5. Everybody seems to agree that a cat is 5 because there's 3 cats. And so a cat, an individual cat must weigh 5 kilograms. So we know how much a cat weighs. How much does a bird weigh? It seems like a bird will weigh 5 plus something is 20. So it must be 15. Yes, Farid. Yes, Rida. Yes, Lutando. I think you guys are on the right track. So I filled in how much a bird is worth. Now, how much is a raccoon? I think that's or a skunk. Something minus 15 is 40. Yo, that must be heavy. So it's going to be 55 for that. So what is my final answer going to be? 5 plus 55 plus 15. My final answer, be careful guys, not, there we go. The final answer is going to be 75.
Woo! Well done, guys. We got that one.
Well done. That was impressive. Okay, so just a quick brain break today, but what I can see is that the majority of students are starting to almost, they do these much quicker than they used to, which means that you're getting used to sort of the algebra of what's going on.
That's true.
Okay, so back to the last bit of today's lesson. We're learning about a place to display what we call Cartesian pairs, and we do it on the Cartesian plane. Now, it turns out, can you see the Cartesian plane is made up of 4 sections? We call this section over here with positive, we call this quadrant 1 or Q1. We call this one over here Q2 or quadrant 2. We call this section over here quadrant 3. And we call this section over here quadrant 4. So just to let you know, in terms of language, the horizontal line is the x-axis, the vertical line is the y-axis, and then they divide up in the Cartesian plane into quadrants. We start on the top right-hand corner and we go anti-clockwise, and we get quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay, so let me do one more sneaky one. I want to know, can you find me, for me, in what, can you think about, if I gave you the input-output pair, or the thing like -3, -4, could you figure out where that goes? And could you also tell me what quadrant does it end up in? So what quadrant will the point -3, -4 end up in? And where, can you figure out where it would end up? Remember, whenever we do this, we always start at the point 0, 0 to get going. Okay, and then I'm going to ask people to raise their hands to give this a go. Sanaliso, do you want to help us?
Actually, sir, I had a question.
Oh, okay. Can I come back to you in a second? I just want to answer this first. Okay, I'll come back to you in a moment. So I'm going to go to Nomsa. Nomsa, can you help us with this? I've unmuted you, I think. Otherwise, I will go ahead and give you guys the answer in a second. Nomsa, if you're able to. Okay, so guys, to get to -3, -4, what we need to do is we actually have to go to the left on the number line to -3. So we start with the x, and then we have to go down by 4. And the point we're going to end up is that point. And maybe I could call it the point F. And the point F is going to be in quadrant 3. And I've noticed how I'm using the two words. I could call the point F input-output pair, or I could call it the point F. Those are both different ways of describing the same thing. All right, you guys are winning. I think it's time for us to have a little question. And you know how I like to use the poll function. So what we're going to do is you guys are going to tell me there's a point A, and you need to work out which of the 4 is the correct way of writing the point A. Now, this is a little bit tricky because I have put it, I did it the other way around now. So which of the 4 options is correct? Think about this. What is this in line with, and what is this in line with? What does the value over here on this axis stand for? What axis is this one here? The x-axis. What is this one over here? It's the y. I like seeing the poll. It's actually so interesting. Yolanda, can you see that?
Yes, it's very interesting. So I can't say any letters because they will think I'm saying the answer. But yeah, it's really interesting on what you guys are choosing.
So if you think about the point A, what do you think its x value is going to be? The value that came first. And then if you look at the point, what do you think its y value is going to be? Keep voting, guys. Don't be afraid. Just pull the trigger there. Not a problem. Okay, I'm going to close the poll because we're going to do a second one of these. If you look at the point A, if you look at the x-axis, that always comes first. If you look at where A is in line with, A is in line with 4 on the x-axis. And so that is going to be 4 there. And if you look at where it's in line on the y-axis, the output is going to be 2. And so the point A is made up of the input of 4 and the output of 2, or the x is going to be 4 and the y is going to be 2. So that would be the correct answer. Now, a lot of students got that right, but a lot of students mixed up the x and the y. So it's really important that you look at this. If you're given a point, the x will always come first, the y will come second. Where will you find the x? You'll find the x by going down to the x-axis. Okay. So let's do another one just to check if we are, I'm going to show you a different question. Sorry, the answer was going to be B, guys. The answer should have been B. But let's try again on this question. Okay, so take your time, take a moment to just think about it. Don't rush it. If you look at the point B, and some of you may have jumped the gun there a little bit, ask yourself the point B, what is it in line with on the x-axis? What is it in line with on the y-axis? And then you can work out what we call the Cartesian coordinates of the point B. So take a moment to look at that. See if you, what is the input-output pair going to look like? We know it always starts with an X, and then it finishes with a Y. We know that Okay.
Woo, let's go, guys.
You can do it.
You there.
Okay. So for me, if I look at the point B, it looks like X has to be in line with -3. And then the Y has to be in line with, it looks like to me it's in line with 5. So is there a answer which is -3, 5? It's going to be D. Okay. Let's do one more. Should we do one more? Let's do one more.
Yes, please. But before that, Matilda said that he would like to read the question first, because once the poll comes, then he cannot read the question.
Oh, I see. Okay, let's do this last one where I'm not going to reset the poll. I'm going to end the poll. Let's see if I can you close the poll, Yolanda? I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, I've closed it.
Wait.
Another one key.
Okay, can you close it? And then, guys, our last question for tonight before we send you off to do the quiz is, what are the Cartesian coordinates of the point C? And I wanted to see, you can put A, B, C, D in the chat. We don't have to worry about the Zoom poll. Okay.
So our last question, guys. Let's do this. Let's get it right.
So here's the point C. What is the input for C? And what is the output for C? So it looks to me like C is in line with -2 on the x-axis. What's it in line with on the y-axis? So -2 there. What's it in line with on the y-axis? It looks, okay, so you're right. It's gonna, for me, it looks like it's in line with -3 on the y-axis. So the final answer, guys, yeah, Ursula. And so the answer, is there an answer which is -2, -3? It's going to be A. Okay. So what I want to say is that we will definitely discuss the Cartesian plane properly more in the graphing unit. But all I wanted to do today was give you a sense of how the input-output pairs that we were working with for a while can also be displayed in a graphical way. And the way we did that was by introducing you guys to this thing called the Cartesian plane, where we always need to remember that the first input, the x, is always going to be along the horizontal. And then the second value, y, is always the one that's on the vertical. And you can see in this question, they even show you X is over here on the horizontal and Y is on the vertical. All right, thank you, Yolanda. That was a great lesson. If I could ask you to please share the link to the quiz. So for those students who are new, I'm now going to ask you to go online and just do a little fun quiz to see how much of the stuff over the last 4 lessons kind of it's been going for you. And yeah, I'm going to bring the lesson to a close, but thank you so much. It was hopefully helpful for you guys. And yeah, this is an important section. So yeah.
Thank you, Teacher Peter. Oh, guys, well done to everybody. Remember, I have posted the quiz there for you. So if you can just browse before you can log out. Can I get a Hoya?
Yeah, I'm gonna make you under the host.
Get the Hoya. Yes, bye guys.
Okay, let's have a look.
Sir, could I ask something?
Yes, Sonny Liso, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll got a minute. Yeah.
With the plane, if I have 3 digits, what do I do then? Like if I say -2, x -2 and x +3.
So all that I don't have
y3.
time to go into this, but what you're talking about is a 3-dimensional Cartesian plane. Okay, and it looks like this. And so it just means that instead of using 2 and x and y, you have more axes. But that's beyond the scope of this course. Okay. All right, but we can talk more about it in future things, but in grade 8, you won't cover 3-dimensional coordinate systems. Yeah. Okay.